In the spring of 1453, the city of Constantinople stood as a relic of a once mighty empire, its towering walls guarding centuries of history, faith, and culture. Known to the world as Byzantium, it had been the jewel of Eastern Christendom for over a millennium, a bridge between Europe and Asia, a bastion of art, learning, and commerce. Yet despite its grandeur, whispers of decline filled the streets. The empire that had once commanded legions now struggled against internal strife, dwindling resources, and the relentless advance of a new power rising from the east, the Ottoman Turks. Byzantium, later known as Constantinople, had been founded centuries before as a trading hub linking the east and west. Its strategic location on the Bosporus Strait allowed it to control vital trade routes, making it both wealthy and coveted. Over time, it became the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, preserving Roman law, culture, and Christian faith long after Rome itself had fallen. By the 15th century, however, the empire was but a shadow of its former glory. Political corruption, internal power struggles, and territorial losses had left Constantinople vulnerable, surrounded by ambitious neighbors who eyed its riches with envy. Far to the east, the Ottoman Empire was rising with unstoppable momentum. Under the young and ambitious Sultan Mehmed II, the Turks had expanded rapidly across Anatolia and the Balkans. Mehmed, barely 21, dreamed of conquering Constantinople, the last great Roman stronghold. The Ottomans were not just numerous, they were innovative. Massive cannons, expertly engineered siege weapons, and disciplined armies allowed them to break through walls that had resisted countless attackers over the centuries. As word of Mehmed's preparations spread, the citizens of Constantinople braced for a storm unlike any they had ever known. Inside the city, the Byzantine defenders knew their time was short. Emperor Constantine XI, the last ruler of a dying dynasty, sought to rally his people. Soldiers, citizens, and mercenaries gathered behind the mighty Theodosian walls, whose towers had withstood countless sieges. Supplies were scarce, and hope was fragile, yet determination burned in every heart. Churches rang with prayers, and rumors of foreign aid circulated, though help from Western Europe remained uncertain. Beyond the walls, the Ottomans amassed their forces, constructing massive cannons and warships, preparing for a siege that would test the limits of human endurance and ingenuity. On April 6, 1453, the siege officially began. Ottoman forces, numbering tens of thousands, surrounded the city. Cannons thundered, battering the walls in an unprecedented display of firepower. The defenders responded with equal courage, repairing breaches and repelling attacks. For weeks, the city endured constant bombardment, skirmishes, and psychological warfare. Inside, the streets were tense with fear and anticipation. Every knock of the cannon against stone was a reminder that the empire's fate hung by a thread. Yet, despite despair, the Byzantines fought with valor, knowing that each day delayed, the inevitable was a day of honor. Life in Constantinople was tense and chaotic. Citizens tried to maintain routines, but the constant roar of cannons and the sight of Ottoman troops drilling outside the walls kept fear ever present. Markets were scarce, food was rationed, and water was carefully guarded. Families huddled together in cellars and monasteries, listening to the distant screams from skirmishes at the gates. Clergy moved among the streets, offering prayers and blessings, reminding people that even in the shadow of death, faith endured. Every citizen understood that they were not merely defending walls, they were defending the legacy of an empire, a civilization stretching back more than 1,000 years. Sultan Mehmed II, known later as the Conqueror, did not rely solely on brute force. He meticulously planned the siege, consulting engineers and commanders on the placement of cannons, the design of tunnels, and the timing of assaults. His ambition was clear. Constantinople must fall, and the empire must be claimed as his own. He ordered the construction of massive cannons capable of destroying the thickest walls. Ships were dragged overland to bypass the chain and blocked the Golden Horn, showcasing the ingenuity and determination of the Ottomans. Each move was calculated, leaving the Byzantines little room for error. Inside the walls, Emperor Constantine XI was more than a figurehead. He led by example. Riding through the streets in full armor, he inspired his soldiers and citizens alike. Commanders like Giovanni Giustiniani, a Genoese mercenary, organized defensive lines and trained troops in the latest techniques. Despite the desperate situation, morale remained surprisingly high. Women helped reinforce walls, carry supplies, and care for the wounded. Children listened wide-eyed to stories of past glories, unaware that they were witnessing the last days of their empire. Every individual in Constantinople understood the gravity of their task. They were standing between history and oblivion. The clash of technology and tradition defined the siege. Ottoman cannons, some over 20 feet long, fired massive stone balls that shook the foundations of the ancient walls. The Theodosian walls, thick and layered, had resisted countless invasions over centuries, but the relentless bombardment began to take its toll. Inside, defenders used ingenuity to repair breaches, hurling stones, boiling oil, and arrows at attackers. The rhythm of battle became a constant heartbeat for the city. Thunder outside and human resolve within. Every cannonball that struck the walls carried with it the weight of history, threatening to end an empire in a single moment. The Ottomans understood that war was fought not only with weapons, but also with fear. Messengers spread rumors, claiming that Constantinople's defenders would be slaughtered if the walls fell. Each day, the defenders faced exhaustion, hunger, and despair. Yet, their determination persisted, fueled by loyalty, pride, and the knowledge that they were defending something far larger than themselves. Constantinople's citizens prayed fervently, lit candles in churches, and wrote letters to distant allies. The siege was more than physical. It was a battle of wills, where courage and hope were the most precious weapons of all. The Ottomans faced a tricky challenge. The Golden Horn, a protected harbor, prevented their ships from fully encircling the city. Undeterred, Mehmed II devised a bold plan, dragging ships over land on greased logs to bypass the chain barrier. This audacious maneuver surprised the defenders and allowed Ottoman forces to control the waters, cutting off crucial supply lines. The sight of Turkish ships appearing where they were least expected struck fear into Constantinople's hearts. It was a masterclass in military ingenuity, demonstrating that this siege would not be won through brute force alone, but through cunning, persistence, and relentless strategy. Night brought no rest. Ottoman soldiers conducted daring raids, probing weak points in the walls, testing the defenders' strength, and sometimes setting fires to create chaos. Within the city, Byzantine troops and citizens stood vigilant, ready to repel attacks. The clash of swords, the screams of men, and the crack of fire lit up the darkness, creating a terrifying nocturnal battle. Yet even in these harrowing hours, acts of heroism shone through. A soldier might sacrifice himself to hold a breach, while civilians helped evacuate the wounded. Every moment became a testament to human endurance in the face of overwhelming odds. For Constantine XI, the pressure was immense. Every night, he walked the ramparts, inspecting defenses and motivating his men. He knew that failure meant the end of his dynasty, the fall of his city, and the erasure of his civilization. Letters to Western Europe, pleading for aid, went largely unanswered, leaving him to rely on his people and limited mercenary forces. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his shoulders. Yet, he remained resolute. His courage became a beacon for those around him, a reminder that even in the darkest hours, leadership could inspire hope and galvanize resistance. By mid-May, the walls showed signs of wear. Ottoman cannons had created large breaches, and soldiers prepared for the final assault. Mehmed II meticulously organized his troops, assigning elite janissaries to spearhead attacks while archers and artillery provided cover. Inside, defenders prepared traps, barricades, and fallback positions. Citizens and soldiers alike understood that the coming days would determine the fate of an empire. The air was thick with tension, anticipation, and fear, as the inevitability of a decisive clash loomed over the ancient city. On May 28, 1453, the Ottomans launched their massive, coordinated assault. The walls shuddered under the impact of cannon fire. Breaches widened, and soldiers poured through openings. Inside, the defenders fought desperately, but numbers and exhaustion worked against them. Constantine XI led a final charge, rallying his men in a display of valor that would echo through history. The city, symbol of a millennium of Christian civilization in the East, was on the brink. Every street, tower, and gate became a battlefield. Every life a testament to courage in the face of insurmountable odds. As dawn broke on May 29th, the Ottoman forces exploited the weakened walls. Cannon damage had opened gaps large enough for soldiers to swarm inside. Chaos erupted as defenders scrambled to hold positions. Streets became narrow death traps, filled with shouting, clashing swords, and the cries of the wounded. Civilians hid in homes and churches, praying desperately. The organized defense of centuries crumbled under relentless waves of attackers. Despite the overwhelming force, Byzantine soldiers fought valiantly, slowing the invaders and buying precious time for others to escape or prepare counterattacks. Emperor Constantine XI refused to flee. Fully armored, he led a final charge against the invading Ottomans, cutting through the enemy with unmatched courage. His presence inspired defenders, yet even his leadership could not stem the tide. Historical accounts suggest that he fell in battle. His body never recovered. With his death, the Byzantine Empire officially ended, its millennia-long legacy extinguished in an instant. Soldiers and citizens witnessed the last symbol of their civilization vanish, leaving a city that had withstood centuries, now open to the conquerors. The city fell into Ottoman hands. Soldiers looted palaces, churches, and homes. Treasures accumulated over centuries were seized or destroyed. The Hagia Sophia, once the heart of Byzantine worship, was converted into a mosque, symbolizing the new order. Citizens faced enslavement, displacement, or death. Yet amid destruction, some aspects of Byzantine culture were preserved. Scholars, artists, and artisans would later influence the Renaissance in Western Europe. The fall of Constantinople was not only a military conquest, but a cultural and spiritual turning point in history. Sultan Mehmed II entered the city triumphantly, earning the title Conqueror. Unlike many conquerors, he sought to stabilize the city rather than destroy it entirely. He encouraged resettlement, revitalized commerce, and established Constantinople as the capital of the Ottoman Empire. The city's strategic position allowed the Ottomans to dominate trade routes and influence European and Asian politics. Mehmed's victory cemented the Ottoman Empire as a dominant power for centuries to come, reshaping the geopolitical landscape of the Eastern Mediterranean. The immediate consequences were profound. Byzantium, a bastion of Christianity and Roman legacy, ceased to exist as an independent power. Europe was shocked by the fall, triggering fear, political realignment, and the search for alternative trade routes to the east. Scholars fleeing Constantinople carried ancient manuscripts westward, indirectly fueling the Renaissance. The Ottoman Empire gained not only territory, but also legitimacy as a major world power. The city became a bridge between civilizations, linking the East and West under a new cultural and political order. The fall of Constantinople had a lasting cultural impact. Byzantine art, architecture, and knowledge were transplanted into Western Europe, influencing Renaissance painting, literature, and philosophy. The Hagia Sophia inspired Ottoman architecture, including the famous mosques of Istanbul. Trade patterns shifted, with Europe seeking maritime routes around Africa to reach Asia. Religiously, the Eastern Orthodox Church lost its political center, forever altering the dynamics of Christian Europe. Constantinople's fall became a symbol of the transition from the medieval world to the early modern era. Historians often view the fall of Constantinople as the bend of the Middle Ages. It marked the decline of the Roman legacy in the East and the rise of the Ottoman Empire as a global power. Military tactics, technology, and strategy demonstrated during the siege became case studies for generations. The courage of the defenders and the vision of the conqueror are remembered as defining moments in human history. For centuries, this single event would inspire literature, scholarship, and legend, reminding the world that empires, no matter how enduring, are never eternal. Today, Istanbul stands as a living reminder of Constantinople's grandeur. Ancient walls, palaces, and monuments echo the city's Byzantine past while reflecting centuries of Ottoman influence. The story of 1453 continues to captivate historians, artists, and filmmakers, symbolizing the clash of civilizations and the cyclical nature of history. Constantinople's fall teaches lessons about resilience, strategy, and adaptation, showing how a single event can reshape the course of human events, bridging the gap between the medieval and modern worlds. The siege was not only a battle of armies, but a battle of humanity. Citizens endured hunger, fear, and disease as the bombardment continued. Families hid in basements and churches, sharing meager rations and comforting one another. Soldiers, exhausted from constant fighting, took brief moments to pray or write letters, knowing that many would never see another day. The walls of Constantinople bore scars of violence. Yet within, the city's people demonstrated courage, compassion, and resilience that would echo through history. As May 28th drew to a close, the city teetered on the edge of collapse. Ottoman forces prepared for a full-scale assault at first light. Constantine XI moved among his troops, offering words of encouragement and blessing their weapons. Citizens and mercenaries alike understood that the coming hours would define history. Lanterns flickered in the streets, and prayers rang out from every church. The tension was unbearable, yet amidst the fear, determination burned brighter than ever. The defenders knew they faced overwhelming odds, yet they would fight to the last. At dawn on May 29th, the Ottoman army surged through breaches in the walls. Cannons roared, arrows rained, and swords clashed in relentless waves. Streets became battlegrounds as defenders tried to hold key gates. Constantine XI led charges against the invaders, cutting down enemies, but ultimately falling in combat. The fall of the emperor symbolized the end of Byzantine rule. Even as chaos consumed the city, acts of bravery and sacrifice unfolded on every corner. Each citizen, soldier, and mercenary became part of a story that would be remembered for centuries. After the walls were breached, Ottoman soldiers looted palaces, churches, and homes. Priceless treasures were taken or destroyed. The Hagia Sophia was converted into a mosque, marking the spiritual transformation of the city. Sultan Mehmed II entered the city triumphantly, establishing Ottoman rule. Unlike many conquerors, he implemented policies to rebuild and repopulate Constantinople, attracting merchants, artisans, and scholars. Trade flourished under his leadership, and the city became a center of learning and commerce once more, now under Ottoman control. Mehmed's triumph reshaped the balance of power in the Eastern Mediterranean, signaling the rise of a global empire that would dominate politics, trade, and culture for centuries to come. The fall of Constantinople had profound consequences. Europe, shaken by the loss of the Byzantine bastion, accelerated exploration for new trade routes to the east. The Renaissance was indirectly fueled as scholars fled west, bringing ancient manuscripts and knowledge. The Orthodox Church lost its political center, reshaping Christian geopolitics. The Ottoman Empire emerged as a dominant force, controlling trade, culture, and politics across 3 continents. The siege and fall of the city became a symbol of human endurance, ingenuity, and the shifting tides of history. Today, Istanbul stands as a living testament to its layered history. The walls of Constantinople, the Hagia Sophia, and ancient streets remind the world of the city's Byzantine past and Ottoman transformation. The fall of 1453 is remembered not just as a military conquest, but as a pivotal turning point that reshaped civilizations, trade, and culture. The story of courage, strategy, faith, and resilience endures, teaching that empires rise and fall. Yet human ingenuity and spirit leave a legacy that transcends time. Constantinople's fall remains one of history's most dramatic and influential events, echoing across centuries.